In the year 2147, Earth was no longer just a blue marble floating in space. It had become a hub of activity, a place where humans and aliens coexisted under an uneasy peace. For decades, humanity shared its corner of the galaxy with a species called the Varnic. These tall, insect-like beings were not friends, but they weren't enemies either. Trade agreements kept things stable, even if tensions simmered beneath the surface. Aaron Hayes, a seasoned diplomat, spent most of his days trying to keep that fragile peace intact. He worked closely with Mia Carter, his sharp and dedicated assistant, who often reminded him to stay patient during long negotiations. Together, they represented Earth's interests in meetings with the Varnic. But lately, those meetings felt more like walking on thin ice than building bridges. The Varnic had been pushing boundaries for years. Their ships frequently entered human-controlled space without permission, and their leaders made demands that grew bolder by the month. Still, Aaron believed diplomacy could solve anything. He hoped the Varnic would see reason before things spiraled out of control. But hope wasn't enough to stop what happened next. One cold morning, news reached Earth that shook everyone to their core. A mining colony on Titan, one of Saturn's moons, had been destroyed. The explosion was massive, wiping out everything in its path. Thousands of lives were lost in an instant. Shockwaves rippled through governments, families, and communities as people struggled to comprehend the tragedy. General Laura Drake, head of Earth's defense forces, wasted no time responding. She ordered her team to investigate immediately. What they found left them speechless. Among the wreckage, there was only one survivor, a young engineer named Ryan Cole. Covered in soot and barely conscious, Ryan was rushed back to Earth for medical treatment. When Ryan finally regained his strength, he was brought before General Drake and her advisors. His voice trembled as he recounted the events leading up to the attack. "It came out of nowhere," he said, gripping the edges of the table. "Their ships surrounded us. We didn't have a chance." Ryan described how the Varnic unleashed devastating energy weapons, obliterating the colony within minutes. He recalled the screams of his coworkers, the heat of the blasts, and the suffocating darkness that followed. Most chillingly, he insisted the attack wasn't random. "They knew exactly where to hit," he said. "They targeted something specific." That detail caught everyone's attention. Titan wasn't just a mining colony. It housed a secret research facility working on advanced weapons technology. The project was classified, known only to a handful of scientists and military personnel. If the Varnic had discovered it, it meant someone had leaked the information. As word spread about the attack, anger boiled over. People demanded answers and justice. Protests erupted in cities worldwide, with citizens chanting slogans like "Protect our future" and "No more compromises." Even those who once supported peaceful relations with the Varnic began to question whether diplomacy was enough. Aaron Hayes watched the chaos unfold from his office window. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. For years, he'd argued that talking was better than fighting. Now he wondered if he'd been wrong. The Varnic had crossed a line, and humanity wouldn't stand for it any longer. Mia Carter noticed the troubled look on Aaron's face. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. "I'm thinking," Aaron replied, "that we might be running out of time to fix this without bloodshed." Little did they know, the worst was yet to come. Ryan Cole's testimony sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership. General Laura Drake listened intently as Ryan described the attack in detail, his words painting a grim picture of betrayal and destruction. The Varnic had struck without warning, targeting Titan with precision that suggested they knew exactly what they were after. Something about the research facility had drawn their attention, and now humanity was left to pick up the pieces. Drake wasted no time. She called an emergency meeting with her top advisors, including Jason Fields, a brilliant scientist who specialized in alien technology. Jason had been working on classified projects for years, often collaborating with teams stationed on distant colonies like Titan. When he heard about the attack, his mind raced with questions. What could the Varnic have wanted so badly? And how did they find out about it? We need answers, Drake said firmly, pacing the room. If the Varnic are willing to destroy one of our colonies, we can't afford to sit back and wait for them to strike again. Jason nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. I'll start analyzing the data from Titan's wreckage. There might be clues there, something they left behind or missed when they hit us. While Jason got to work, Mia Carter and Aaron Hayes tried to piece together the political side of the puzzle. They reached out to their contacts within the Varnic government, hoping to uncover any hints of internal conflict. If rogue factions were behind the attack, it could mean the official leaders weren't fully responsible, but proving that wouldn't be easy. Days turned into weeks, and tensions continued to rise. News outlets broadcast images of the devastated colony, fueling public outrage. Protesters gathered outside government buildings, demanding action. Some called for war, while others pleaded for restraint. The divide grew wider every day, making it harder for leaders to agree on a course of action. Then came a breakthrough. Jason Fields discovered something hidden in the debris, a fragment of alien tech unlike anything he'd seen before. It wasn't just advanced, it was experimental. Whoever designed it had pushed the boundaries of science far beyond what humans were capable of achieving. More importantly, it matched descriptions of weapon systems that had been under development at the Titan facility. This changes everything, Jason told General Drake during a private briefing. The Varnic didn't just attack Titan because they felt like it. They wanted this technology, and they succeeded in stealing parts of it. Drake clenched her fists, her jaw tight with anger. So much for peaceful coexistence, she muttered. They've declared war whether we like it or not. But the discoveries didn't stop there. While examining the fragment, Jason noticed strange markings etched into its surface. They looked like symbols, possibly part of a code. He shared his findings with Mia, who recognized them immediately. These aren't random marks, she said. They're signatures used by high-ranking Varnic officials. This proves the attack came straight from their command structure. Aaron Hayes struggled to process the implications. For years, he'd worked tirelessly to maintain peace between humans and the Varnic. Now, all his efforts seemed meaningless. The evidence pointed to a calculated act of aggression, one that couldn't be ignored. As the truth began to emerge, another revelation rocked Earth. A Varnic defector named Kale arrived at a human outpost near Jupiter, seeking asylum. Kale claimed to oppose his people's militaristic leadership and offered critical information in exchange for protection. According to him, the attack on Titan was only the beginning. The Varnic High Command planned further assaults, unless humanity submitted completely. Kel's warnings added urgency to an already volatile situation. Leaders scrambled to decide their next move. Aaron found himself torn between his belief in diplomacy and the mounting pressure to retaliate. Meanwhile, Mia worked tirelessly to verify Kel's claims, knowing the fate of billions might depend on his words. By the end of the week, one thing was clear. Humanity stood at a crossroads. The fragile peace they'd clung to for so long was crumbling, and the choices ahead would shape their future forever. Whether they chose negotiation or vengeance, one truth remained undeniable. The Varnic had provoked too far, and humanity wouldn't forget it. Kale, the Varnic defector, became the center of attention. Housed in a secure facility on Earth, he was questioned by top officials, including Aaron Hayes and Mia Carter. Kale's presence was both a gift and a challenge. His warnings about the Varnic High Command's plans were dire, but his motives were unclear. Was he truly seeking to help humanity, or was this some kind of trick? Aaron approached Kale cautiously. He had spent years negotiating with the Varnic, but never like this, face to face with one who claimed to oppose his own kind. "Why are you doing this?" Aaron asked, his voice calm but firm. "What do you want from us?" Kale hesitated before answering. His large, insect-like eyes glimmered under the artificial lights of the room. "I want to stop them," he said finally. "The leaders of my people, they care only for power. They see your species as weak, something to be crushed or controlled. If they succeed, it will mean the end of freedom for all. Mia studied Cal closely. She didn't trust him completely, but his words carried a ring of truth. "You say their next move is an attack," she said. "Do you know when or where?" Cale nodded slowly. "They plan to strike another colony soon, one closer to Earth this time. It will send a message that resistance is useless." The room fell silent as the weight of Cal's words sank in. If what he said was true, humanity had little time to prepare. General Laura Drake listened intently from the corner, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She didn't trust Cal either, but she knew his information could be the key to stopping the Varnic. "We need proof," Drake said bluntly. "Something concrete we can act on." Cal leaned forward, his movements deliberate. "There is a way," he replied. "My people have a central communications hub near the edge of human space. If you can access it, you'll find records of their plans. But getting there won't be easy. The hub is heavily guarded." Drake exchanged a glance with Aaron and Mia. This was risky, but it might be their only chance to confirm Cal's claims. Without solid evidence, rallying Earth's leaders and its people would be nearly impossible. Meanwhile, Ryan Cole found himself struggling to adjust to life after Titan. He couldn't shake the memories of the attack, the explosions, the screams, the feeling of helplessness as he watched his friends die. Nightmares haunted him, waking him in cold sweats. Yet despite his pain, Ryan felt a growing sense of purpose. He wanted to fight back, to make sure no one else suffered the way he had. When Jason Fields approached him with an idea, Ryan didn't hesitate. "We're working on new defense systems," Jason explained. "Weapons that could level the playing field against the Varnic. Your knowledge of their tactics could help us design something effective." Ryan agreed immediately. For the first time since the attack, he felt like he had a role to play, a way to honor those he'd lost. Together, Ryan and Jason poured their energy into developing advanced combat drones capable of outmaneuvering Varnic ships. The work was grueling, but it gave Ryan a sense of control in a world spiraling toward chaos. As days passed, tensions on Earth continued to rise. Protests grew larger, with crowds chanting for action against the Varnic. Some called for peace talks, while others demanded war. Politicians argued endlessly, unable to agree on a unified response. In the midst of the turmoil, Aaron Hayes wrestled with doubt. Had he been wrong to believe in diplomacy? Could peace ever exist between humans and the Varnic? Mia saw the toll it was taking on him. "You can't blame yourself for this," she told him one evening as they reviewed Cal's files. "No one could have predicted how far they'd go." Aaron sighed heavily. "Maybe not, but if we don't handle this right, millions more could die." Back at the Military Command Center, General Drake finalized plans to investigate the Varnic communications hub. She chose Captain Olivia Shaw, a fearless pilot known for her quick thinking, to lead the mission. Shaw accepted without hesitation, knowing the risks involved. If successful, the operation could provide the proof needed to unite humanity against the Varnic threat. As preparations began, one thing was certain: time was running out. The Varnic had already shown their willingness to attack without mercy. Now, humanity faced a choice: to stand together and fight, or risk losing everything they had built. The mood on Earth shifted dramatically as General Laura Drake took charge of preparing for the looming conflict. With Cal's warnings ringing in their ears, humanity began mobilizing its resources. Factories that once produced consumer goods were repurposed to build weapons and ships. Scientists worked around the clock to improve existing technology, while engineers designed new systems to counter the Varnic's advanced weaponry. Ryan Cole threw himself into the effort, collaborating closely with Jason Fields on the combat drone project. The drones were small but fast, equipped with precision lasers and cloaking devices reverse-engineered from alien tech recovered from Titan. Ryan's first-hand experience with the Varnic gave him valuable insights into how they operated. He suggested programming the drones to exploit weaknesses he'd observed during the attack, like targeting specific areas of their ships where armor was thinner. Jason admired Ryan's determination. "You're making a real difference here," he said one night as they tested a prototype in a secure hangar. "These drones could turn the tide if we're lucky." Ryan nodded, though his expression remained serious. "Let's just hope it's enough." Meanwhile, Captain Olivia Shaw prepared her team for the dangerous mission to infiltrate the Varnic communications hub. Her crew consisted of skilled pilots, engineers, and intelligence operatives, all volunteers who understood the stakes. Among them was Ethan Blake, a farmer-turned-soldier whose family had been displaced by earlier skirmishes with the Varnic. For Ethan, this mission wasn't just about duty, it was personal. "We'll need to move fast," Shaw told her team during a briefing. "Get in, grab the data, and get out before they even know we're there. If things go south, stick to the plan. No heroics." Ethan listened carefully, gripping the edge of the table. He'd never faced combat before, but he was determined to prove himself. As the meeting ended, Shaw approached him privately. "Nervous?" she asked. "A little," Ethan admitted, "but I'm ready." Shaw smiled faintly. "Good. Just remember, focus on the mission and trust your teammates." As military efforts ramped up, ordinary citizens joined the cause in their own ways. Farmers donated food supplies to support troops, while engineers volunteered to help repair damaged equipment. Even children contributed by organizing fundraisers to send care packages to soldiers stationed far from home. Across the globe, people came together in a way that hadn't been seen in decades. Aaron Hayes watched these developments with mixed feelings. On one hand, he admired the unity and resilience of humanity. On the other, he worried about the path they were taking. Diplomacy seemed further out of reach with each passing day. When Maya Carter noticed his troubled expression, she tried to reassure him. "You've done everything you could to keep the peace," she said gently. "Sometimes, though, people have to fight for what matters most." Aaron sighed. "I just hope we're not making a mistake." Cale, meanwhile, continued sharing information with Earth's leaders. Though some still doubted his motives, his knowledge proved invaluable. He revealed details about the Varnic fleet's movements and strategies, helping Drake refine her plans. Despite his cooperation, Cale remained wary of humans. He knew many viewed him as an enemy, no matter how much he wanted to help. One evening, Maya visited Cale in his quarters. "Do you think your people will listen if you try to reason with them?" she asked. Cale shook his head. "They see me as a traitor now. My words mean nothing to them. But maybe yours can make a difference." Mia left the conversation feeling uneasy. She couldn't shake the sense that Cale was holding something back, but she also knew they needed his help too badly to question him further. As preparations neared completion, General Drake addressed a large crowd gathered outside the United Earth Defense Headquarters. Standing tall in her uniform, she spoke with unwavering resolve. "The Varnic have pushed us too far," she declared. "We won't let fear dictate our future. Together, we'll defend our planet and show them that humanity doesn't back down." The crowd erupted in cheers, united by a shared purpose. For the first time in years, humanity stood ready to face its greatest challenge. Whether through courage or desperation, they had found strength in unity, and they would need every ounce of it in the battles to come. The mission to infiltrate the Varnic communications hub was underway. Captain Olivia Shaw led her team aboard a sleek, experimental ship designed for stealth. The craft's cloaking technology, developed by Jason Fields and his team, made it nearly invisible to Varnic sensors. As they approached the hub, a massive, spire-like structure floating in deep space, Shaw reminded her crew to stay focused. "Remember," she said over the comms, "we're ghosts, silent and unseen." The team moved with precision, slipping past Varnic patrols without detection. Ethan Blake, though nervous, followed orders carefully. His role was simple but crucial: monitor the ship's systems and ensure the cloaking device stayed active. He gripped the controls tightly, sweat forming on his brow as alarms blared faintly in the distance. Varnic ships scanning for intruders. Once inside the hub, the team split into two groups. Shaw and three others headed for the main data core, while Ethan stayed behind with an engineer named Clara Myers to guard the ship. The corridors of the hub were eerily quiet, lit only by dim, pulsating lights that gave the alien structure an unsettling feel. Every step felt like walking into a trap. At the data core, Shaw and her team worked quickly. They connected portable drives to extract files detailing the Varnic's plans. The information flowed fast, but just as they were about to finish, alarms screeched through the facility. Red warning lights flashed, bathing the room in an ominous glow. "We've been spotted," one of the operatives shouted. Shaw didn't hesitate. "Grab what we can and fall back," she ordered. Her team sprinted toward the exit, dodging bursts of energy fire from Varnic guards who materialized around every corner. The once silent mission had turned into a deadly game of cat and mouse. Back at the ship, Ethan heard the commotion over the radio. His heart raced as he listened to Shaw's voice crackle through the line. "Ethan, get the engines ready. We're coming in hot." Clara glanced at him nervously. "Think they'll make it?" "They have to," Ethan replied, his voice steadier than he expected. He powered up the engines, keeping one eye on the cloaking device. If it failed now, they'd be sitting ducks. Moments later, Shaw's group burst into the hangar, firing wildly behind them as Varnic soldiers closed in. "Go! Go! Go!" Shaw yelled, leaping onto the ship. Ethan hit the throttle, and the vessel shot out of the hub like a bullet, narrowly avoiding enemy fire. As they escaped into the void of space, Shaw reviewed the data they'd retrieved. Among the files was horrifying evidence. The Varnic had been experimenting on captured humans, using them to develop biological weapons. The discovery left the team stunned and furious. "This changes everything," Shaw muttered, her jaw clenched. "If people see this, there'll be no turning back." When they returned to Earth, the data was shared with General Laura Drake and her advisors. The revelation sparked outrage among leaders and citizens alike. Protests demanding justice grew louder, and calls for war drowned out pleas for peace. Even Aaron Hayes, who had long championed diplomacy, found himself questioning whether negotiation was still possible. Cale watched the reaction with a mixture of guilt and resolve. "I warned you," he said quietly to Mia Carter. "This is why I came here." Mia nodded, her expression grim. "And now we know the truth, but at what cost?" The stolen data became a rallying cry for humanity. It confirmed what many had feared. The Varnic saw them not as equals, but as tools to be used or destroyed. With this knowledge, Earth united in a way it never had before. Soldiers trained harder, scientists worked faster, and civilians prepared for whatever lay ahead. For Ryan Cole, the mission's success reignited his determination. Seeing the evidence of the Varnic's cruelty only strengthened his resolve to fight back. Together with Jason Fields, he pushed forward with the combat drone project, knowing their work could tip the scales in humanity's favor. As preparations for war intensified, one thing was clear: the fragile peace was gone forever. Humanity had glimpsed the true face of its enemy, and now it would strike back with everything it had. The stolen data from the Varnic communications hub ignited a firestorm on Earth. Images of human captives being subjected to horrifying experiments spread across news outlets, sparking outrage and grief. Families mourned loved ones who had vanished without explanation, now realizing they might have been taken by the Varnic. The evidence left no room for doubt. Humanity was dealing with an enemy that showed no mercy. Political leaders gathered in emergency sessions to decide their next move. Some argued for immediate retaliation, urging General Laura Drake to launch a full-scale assault on the Varnic. Others, like Aaron Hayes, still clung to the hope of finding a diplomatic solution. "If we rush into war," Aaron pleaded during one heated debate, "we risk losing everything we've worked for. There's still a chance to negotiate, if we act wisely." But his words fell on deaf ears. Public opinion had shifted dramatically, and most people wanted action, not talk. Protesters filled the streets, chanting slogans like, "No more victims," and "Strike back now." Even those who had once supported peace saw the Varnik's actions as unforgivable. Mia Carter stood beside Aaron, watching the chaos unfold. She admired his dedication to diplomacy, but couldn't ignore the reality of the situation. "Aaron," she said softly, "sometimes peace isn't possible, not with enemies like this." Aaron sighed, rubbing his temples. He knew she was right, but it didn't make the truth any easier to accept. For years, he believed in the power of words to bridge divides. Now, he wondered if humanity was beyond that point. Amidst the turmoil, Kale struggled to gain trust among humans. Though his information had proven invaluable, many viewed him with suspicion. Some accused him of playing both sides, while others simply saw him as another alien, a reminder of the species that had caused so much pain. Kale tried to stay patient, knowing his role was crucial. Still, he couldn't help feeling isolated. "I'm doing this for my people too," he told Mia one evening. "If the High Command continues down this path, it will destroy us all." Mia nodded, though her expression remained cautious. She wanted to believe him, but the stakes were too high to take chances. As tensions mounted, General Drake finalized plans for humanity's first offensive strike. Using intelligence provided by Kale, she identified a key target, a Varnik outpost suspected of housing weapons meant for another attack on Earth. The mission would serve two purposes: to weaken the Varnik military and send a clear message that humanity wouldn't tolerate further aggression. Captain Olivia Shaw was chosen to lead the assault. Her team, bolstered by Ryan Cole's new combat drones, prepared for battle. The drones, equipped with advanced AI and cloaking technology, gave humanity a fighting chance against the superior firepower of the Varnik fleet. During training exercises, Shaw watched as the drones darted between simulated enemy ships, disabling them with precision strikes. For the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. Ryan worked tirelessly alongside Jason Fields, fine-tuning the drone systems. Sleep became a luxury he could no longer afford, but he didn't care. Every second spent improving the technology brought him closer to justice for those lost on Titan. When Jason suggested taking a break, Ryan shook his head. "There's too much at stake," he said firmly. "We can rest when this is over." On the eve of the mission, Ethan Blake found himself reflecting on how far he'd come. Just months ago, he'd been an ordinary farmer, tending crops and dreaming of a quiet life. Now, he was preparing to face an alien enemy in a battle that could determine the fate of humanity. Fear gnawed at him, but so did determination. He thought of his family, displaced by earlier conflicts, and vowed to protect them, even if it cost him his life. As dawn broke, the fleet assembled in orbit around Earth. Soldiers exchanged final words with loved ones, their faces etched with resolve. General Drake addressed the crew one last time. "This isn't just about revenge," she said, her voice steady. "It's about survival. Show them what humanity is made of." With engines roaring, the ships launched into space, heading toward the Varnik outpost. Humanity's first strike was about to begin, and the outcome would shape the future of both species forever. The human fleet approached the Varnik outpost under the cover of darkness. Cloaked ships glided silently through space, their presence masked by Jason Field's advanced technology. Captain Olivia Shaw led the charge, her eyes fixed on the glowing structure ahead. A sprawling fortress bristling with weapons and guarded by a cluster of Varnik warships. The outpost was a critical hub for their enemy's operations, and destroying it would deal a major blow to their military strength. "This is it," Shaw said over the comms, her voice calm but firm. "Stick to the plan. Drones first, then we move in." Ryan Cole's combat drones launched from the ships, their sleek forms shimmering faintly as they activated their cloaking devices. Programmed to target weak points in the Varnik defenses, the drones darted between enemy vessels like ghosts. Within moments, the first explosions lit up the void of space as the drones disabled key systems on several ships. The Varnik scrambled to respond, their sensors unable to pinpoint the source of the attacks. "Drones are doing their job," Ryan reported from his station aboard Shaw's ship. His hands hovered over the controls, ready to adjust tactics if needed. For the first time since Titan, he felt a surge of hope. These machines were his creation, born out of pain and determination, and they were holding their own against the enemy. As the drones cleared a path, Shaw gave the order to advance. Human ships emerged from stealth mode, unleashing barrages of laser fire at the outpost's defenses. The battle erupted into chaos, with energy blasts lighting up the darkness like fireworks. Ethan Blake sat at his console, monitoring the ship's systems while trying to block out the sounds of alarms, and shouted orders around him. This was nothing like the quiet life he'd once known, but he refused to falter. Inside the outpost, Varnik soldiers scrambled to mount a counterattack. Their leaders had underestimated humanity's resolve and its ingenuity. When the first human boarding party breached the facility, the Varnik fought fiercely, but they were unprepared for the coordinated assault. Shaw led her team through narrow corridors, taking out enemies with precision shots. Every step forward was hard-won, but the humans pressed on, driven by a shared purpose. Back on Earth, General Laura Drake watched the battle unfold via live feeds sent from the fleet. Her face remained impassive, though her knuckles turned white as she gripped the edge of her desk. The stakes were unimaginably high. If this mission failed, it could embolden the Varnik to strike back harder than ever. But if it succeeded, Aaron Hayes paced anxiously nearby, torn between dread and pride. He still believed in diplomacy, but he couldn't deny the courage of those fighting in space. Mia Carter stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the screen. "They're doing it," she whispered. "They're actually pushing back." Cale, watching from a secure location, felt a mix of emotions. Though he despised the High Command's actions, seeing his people fall under human fire wasn't easy. Still, he knew this conflict had been inevitable. If humanity didn't stand up now, the Varnik would only grow more ruthless. The turning point came when Shaw's team reached the outpost's core reactor. With careful timing, they planted explosives designed to cripple the facility without causing widespread destruction. As they retreated, Shaw triggered the detonation sequence. A massive explosion tore through the outpost, sending shockwaves rippling through space. The Varnik fleet, already weakened, began to retreat. When the dust settled, the human fleet regrouped, battered but victorious. Shaw looked out at the wreckage, her expression unreadable. They had struck a significant blow, but she knew this was only the beginning. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the victory spread. For the first time in years, humanity dared to believe it could win. But amid the cheers, Aaron Hayes couldn't shake a nagging thought. Wars rarely ended with just one battle. The victory at the Varnik outpost was a turning point, but it came at a cost. As the human fleet returned to Earth, Captain Olivia Shaw and her crew carried both pride and sorrow. Several ships had been lost in the battle, along with dozens of brave soldiers who gave their lives to make the mission a success. Ethan Blake sat quietly in his quarters, staring at a photo of his family on his tablet. He felt relief that he'd survived, but guilt gnawed at him for those who hadn't. Ryan Cole also struggled with mixed emotions. The combat drones had performed brilliantly, proving his hard work wasn't in vain. Yet, every explosion he'd witnessed reminded him of the destruction on Titan. "We won," Jason Fields said to Ryan one evening as they reviewed data from the battle. "But winning doesn't feel the way I thought it would." "It never does," Ryan replied softly. His mind kept returning to the faces of his friends who had died. Their sacrifice weighed heavily on him, fueling his determination to see this fight through until the end. General Laura Drake addressed the crew upon their return, praising their bravery and resilience. "You've shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of," she said, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. This isn't just about revenge. It's about protecting our future. Her words resonated deeply with the soldiers, though some wondered how much longer they could keep fighting. Meanwhile, Kale faced growing scrutiny from Earth's leaders. Though his intel had been crucial to the mission's success, many still doubted his loyalty. Aaron Hayes tried to defend him, arguing that Kale's defection proved he wanted peace, but others weren't convinced. He's still one of them, a military advisor snapped during a tense meeting. How do we know he won't turn on us? Kale overheard the accusations and retreated to his quarters, frustration bubbling inside him. He had risked everything to help humanity, yet he remained an outsider. Maya Carter found him sitting alone, staring at the floor. "You knew this wouldn't be easy," she said gently. "I did," Kale admitted. "But knowing something and living it are different. My people see me as a traitor now. And yours. They may never fully trust me." Mia hesitated before speaking again. "Trust takes time. You've earned mine, though. That has to count for something." As preparations began for the next phase of the war, General Drake unveiled a bold plan: a direct strike against the Varnic homeworld. Intelligence suggested the planet housed not only their central command, but also facilities producing advanced weapons. If humanity could cripple these operations, it might force the Varnic to surrender. The mission would require stealth and precision. Using cloaking technology developed by Jason Fields, a small fleet would infiltrate Varnic space undetected. Leading the assault would be Captain Shaw, whose leadership had proven invaluable. Before departure, Shaw gathered her team for a final briefing. "This will be the hardest thing any of us has ever done," she warned. "But if we succeed, we can end this war." Among the volunteers was Ryan Cole, who insisted on joining the mission. "I started this project to honor the people we lost," he told Shaw. "If there's a chance to finish it, I need to be there." Ethan Blake also signed up, despite his lingering fears. "I can't sit back while others fight," he said firmly when questioned about his decision. "If I'm going to protect my family, I have to do my part." As the fleet launched into space once more, humanity held its breath. The stakes were higher than ever. A failed attack on the Varnic homeworld could provoke devastating retaliation. But if they succeeded, it might bring lasting peace. Back on Earth, Aaron Hayes watched the ships disappear into the stars. For years, he'd fought for diplomacy, hoping to avoid bloodshed. Now he realized the path to peace sometimes required sacrifice and courage. As the screen faded to black, he whispered to himself, "May they come back safe." Far away, the fleet sped toward destiny, carrying the hopes of billions. The battle ahead would demand everything they had, and perhaps even more. The human fleet reached the Varnic homeworld under the cover of darkness, their ships cloaked and nearly invisible to enemy sensors. The planet loomed ahead, a swirling mass of deep greens and blues dotted with sprawling cities and towering spires. It was beautiful and deadly. Captain Olivia Shaw felt a mix of awe and dread as she led the assault team closer to their target. This wasn't just another outpost. It was the heart of the Varnic Empire, guarded by their most advanced defenses. Ryan Cole sat at his station aboard Shaw's ship, monitoring the combat drones he had helped design. His hands trembled slightly as he prepared them for deployment. "This is it," Jason Fields said quietly beside him. "Whatever happens next will change everything." Shaw gave the order to deploy the drones first, sending them ahead to disable key systems around the planet. Their task was critical: take out communication arrays and power grids to weaken the Varnic response. As the drones darted through space, explosions erupted in flashes of light, signaling their success. But the Varnic weren't caught off guard for long. Within minutes, alarms blared across the fleet as enemy ships emerged from orbit, weapons blazing. Ethan Blake gripped his console tightly as energy blasts rocked the ship. He'd trained for this moment, but nothing could prepare him for the chaos of real combat. "Stay sharp," Shaw shouted over the comms. "We've got one shot at this." The human fleet pressed forward, dodging fire while launching counterattacks. Ryan watched anxiously as several drones were destroyed, but enough remained to clear a path toward the central command center, a massive structure that pulsed with alien energy. Shaw's team would need to infiltrate it and plant explosives capable of crippling the facility. On the ground, things grew even more intense. Shaw led her squad through the streets of a nearby city, where Varnic soldiers fought fiercely to defend their home. Every corner turned revealed new threats, forcing the team to rely on quick reflexes and teamwork. Ethan stayed close to Shaw, his weapon raised as they moved cautiously forward. For the first time, he felt like more than just a farmer. He felt like part of something bigger. Inside the command center, Ryan risked his life to disable a superweapon that could devastate entire planets. The machine hummed ominously, its controls far too complex for anyone else to understand. Sweat dripped down his face as he worked frantically to shut it down. "I can do this," he muttered to himself, his fingers flying over the alien interface. Finally, with a loud hiss, the weapon powered down, leaving the room eerily silent. Meanwhile, Ethan joined a small group tasked with securing vital data from the facility servers. They downloaded files detailing the Varnic's plans for biological warfare, evidence that could rally humanity if shared widely. Just as they finished, a Varnic patrol ambushed them. Ethan fired back, protecting his teammates until reinforcements arrived. When the dust settled, he realized what he'd done. He had saved lives, not just his own, but others. Back outside, Shaw planted the final explosives deep within the command center. As she signaled the retreat, the building began to collapse behind her, shaking the ground violently. The team sprinted toward their extraction point, narrowly avoiding falling debris. By the time they reached their ships, the sky above glowed orange with destruction. As the fleet escaped into space, the Varnic homeworld burned below, a symbol of both victory and devastation. General Laura Drake received confirmation of the mission's success and immediately began planning how to use the captured intel to negotiate terms of surrender. Aaron Hayes stood silently, watching footage of the attack. Though relieved that humanity had struck such a decisive blow, he couldn't ignore the cost. Millions, perhaps billions, of Varnic civilians had been affected by the strike. Was justice worth so much suffering? Kale, watching from Earth, felt a pang of sorrow for his people, yet he knew there was no turning back now. The war had changed everyone, including him. Humanity had won the battle, but the scars of war ran deep, and though peace seemed closer than ever, rebuilding trust would take far longer than anyone imagined. The strike on the Varnic homeworld marked a turning point in the war. With their central command crippled and key facilities destroyed, the Varnic High Command had no choice but to seek terms for surrender. Kale, who had once served his people's leaders, played a crucial role in negotiating peace. His knowledge of Varnic politics and his desire to see reform within his species made him an invaluable mediator between humanity and the remnants of the Varnic government. Aaron Hayes found himself working alongside Kale during these tense negotiations. For years, Aaron had believed in diplomacy as the only path to peace. Now, he saw how fragile that belief was when faced with enemies unwilling to listen. Still, he couldn't deny the importance of giving the Varnic a chance to rebuild, not as conquerors, but as equals. "We've shown them we won't back down," Aaron told Mia Carter one evening. "But if we destroy them completely, we become what they were." Mia nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It's not about forgiving them. It's about making sure this never happens again, for anyone." Under the terms of the agreement, the Varnic agreed to dismantle their military forces and abandon all aggressive expansion. They also pledged to cooperate with humanity in rebuilding damaged colonies and providing aid to affected civilians. In return, Earth promised not to occupy or exploit Varnic territory. It was a fragile peace, held together by mutual exhaustion and the hope of a better future. As news of the treaty spread, reactions on Earth were mixed. Some celebrated the end of the war, while others felt justice hadn't been fully served. Families who had lost loved ones struggled to find closure, even as global leaders urged unity and healing. Ryan Cole watched the celebrations from afar, his emotions conflicted. The victory felt hollow without the friends he'd lost on Titan. Yet he took solace in knowing their sacrifices hadn't been in vain. The combat drones he designed had helped tip the scales, proving that humanity could stand against overwhelming odds. Ethan Blake returned home a changed man. The quiet farmer who had once dreamed of a simple life now carried the weight of battle scars, both physical and emotional. But he also carried pride. When he reunited with his family, they embraced him tightly, tears streaming down their faces. "You did it," his younger sister whispered. "You came back." Captain Olivia Shaw stepped down from active duty after the war, passing leadership to younger officers like those she'd mentored. She spent her days writing accounts of the conflict, hoping to preserve its lessons for future generations. "We fought because we had to," she often said. "But I hope no one ever has to fight like that again." Jason Fields continued his work, using alien technology to improve life on Earth rather than build weapons. He collaborated with scientists from both species, fostering cooperation where there had once been hatred. Slowly, trust began to grow between humans and the Varnic. Kale remained on Earth, serving as a bridge between two worlds. Though many still distrusted him, he worked tirelessly to ensure his people embraced change. "This is our second chance," he told Mia one day. "Let's make it count." Years passed, and the scars of war began to fade. Humanity emerged stronger, united by shared sacrifice and resilience. Monuments were built to honor those who had fallen, and schools taught the story of how ordinary people rose to face extraordinary challenges. The galaxy was vast and full of unknown dangers, but Earth stood ready to meet them, together. Though the road ahead was uncertain, one truth remained clear. Humanity had proven it could endure, adapt, and overcome. And in doing so, it had secured not just its survival, but its place among the stars.